Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the City of Canning for those in the audience and those at home. It's Tuesday, the 21st of April 2026. I'm Mayor Patrick Hall. I'd like to open this evening's meeting precisely now. I think it is actually 6 p.m. The meeting is declared open. We start by acknowledging the Whadjuk people, the traditional custodians of the land, and also pay respects to elders both past and present. Can I ask all those present here this evening to please turn off your mobile phones or at least put them on silent for the duration of the meeting. The meeting is also being live streamed via the City's YouTube channel. Council meetings are public meetings and any information you provide shall be recorded and may become publicly accessible. The council chambers are not a parliament and parliamentary privilege does not apply. Elected members and staff therefore risk being held personally liable if their comments are found to be defamatory or breach any duty of confidentiality. Statements made during council meetings are solely those of the person making them. Nothing expressed at a council meeting can be attributed to the city unless it is adopted by a resolution of this council. Elected members and employees must disclose any financial, proximity or partiality interest that they may have in an item on the agenda and declare the interest at the commencement of the meeting or at the very latest when the item is about to be discussed. Financial, proximity and impartiality interests are to be disclosed in accordance with the provisions of the Act. Elected members disclosing a financial or proximity interest must not participate in that part of a briefing relating to their interest and must leave the meeting for the duration of the item. The confirmed minutes of a council meeting are the official record of that meeting. As required under the Local Government Act, the City publishes a video recording of the meeting. Recordings must not be copied, republished or reproduced without the City's express permission. And finally, may I ask elected members to please speak directly into your microphone when addressing this meeting to ensure clear audio. Thank you very much. As far as attendances, we've received no apologies this evening. I'm pleased to report that the full council of the City of Canning is in attendance. Thank you, councillors. Approved leave of absence at item 2.2. There are none. Disclosures of interest. Michael Willetton, Chief Executive Officer, City of Canning. Do we have any this evening?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to item 3.1, declarations of financial interest, I've received none for tonight's meeting. We have received a couple of declarations of impartiality. The first is received from Mayor Hall in relation to item PD 00526. The item details are Section 31, Reconsideration of Development Application, Existing Club Premises Motorcycle Club at 436 Kembla Way, Willetton. The nature of Mayor Hall's association is I have made comments in the media regarding the activities of the Bandito Outlaw Motorcycle Gang and its use of the subject premises in Willetton. Despite those comments, I will deliberate on this item objectively and will do so in a manner which is quasi-judicial and only takes into account the planning merits of this application. The second declaration of impartiality is from Councillor Linda Ross. It is in relation to item ARC 005 of 26, the report of Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee held on the 1st of April 2026. The nature of Councillor Ross's association is Councillor Ross is an acquaintance of two persons listed in the confidential attachments.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Councillor Ross. At item 4, announcements by the presiding member. There are none. Reports of delegates without discussion. Does any elected member wish to present a delegate report this evening? None. We shall move on to question time for the public at item 6. Item 6.1, responses to previous questions taken on notice. There are none. I'm going to propose to open a public question time if we do have any questions. Do we have any questions from anyone in the public? We haven't received any yet. If not, I will move on. Thank you, everyone. There's no questions from those in the public gallery. None have been received in writing, so I propose to move on to item 7, which is the confirmation of minutes. The ordinary council meeting held back on the 17th of March 2026. The officer's recommendation appears on page 5 of the agenda. It's also on screen. Can I have a mover, please, councillors, for the confirmation of the minutes? Councillor Second, thank you. A seconder would be the Deputy Mayor. Councillors will put that to the vote.
The confirmation of minutes for the OCM of 17th of March 2026 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you, Governance. We move on to item 8 on tonight's agenda, which is the receiving of petitions, presentations and deputations. We do have a petition here on the agenda. It is PET 001 of 26. The title of the petition is Petition of Support in relation to parking and club activities, Unit 436 Kembla Way, Willetton, WA. The officer's recommendation is that the petition is received. The petition has actually been put by Mr. Edmund Dior, and the recommendation is on page 6 of the agenda and is on screen. Can I have a mover, please, that the item be received? Thank you, Councillor Kunza. Councillor McCorkle is a seconder. Councillor Kunza, did you wish to say anything? No. Councillors, we might put the item to the vote. That is that the petition be received.
Petition PET 00126 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you. We move to item 8.2, presentations. There are none. 8.3, deputations. Similarly, there are none. Applications for leave of absence at item 9, there are none. Questions by members of which due notice has been given, there are none. Items brought forward for the convenience of those in the public gallery, there are none. Reports of committee meetings at item 12. The first of those reports is 12.1, the title being the Report of Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee held on the 1st of April in 2026. The committee's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 8 of the agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for the item? Councillor Hearn. Thank you, Councillor Hearn. A seconder? Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Hearn.
The item is supported as written.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I also support the committee's and the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone wish to speak against the recommendation? Councillors will put it to the vote.
The report of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee held on 1st of April 2026 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you. The item has been passed. We move on to item 13, reports. The first of those reports, item 13.1 from the Office of the CEO, Mr. Michael Willetton. It's OC 007 of 26, proposed right-of-way dedication for lot 377 Stockman Way in Cannington. The officer's recommendation is on page 12 of the agenda and also appears on screen. Can I have a mover for that item, please? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Seconder would be Councillor Jesse Jacobs. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I support the officer's recommendation, and it's my hope before construction begins that the city will seek a strong contribution from the developer at 361 Seven Oak Street, as they will be the major beneficiary of the road in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jacobs.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. Makes sense. There's going to be a lot of infill there and high density, so I think it makes sense in my mind to get this, and it guarantees better options for us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacobs. Anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone wish to speak against the item? Councillors will put it to the vote.
OC 007 of 26 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you. The next item is 13.2, the Directorate of Mr. Nelson Maurizio, the Director of Corporate and Commercial. The first item is CC 005 of 26, the title of that report being the Monthly Financial Report for February 2026. The officer's recommendation, which is in 5 parts, is on page 23 of this evening's agenda and also appears on screen. And this is for the monthly report back in February 2026. Councillor's going to have a mover, please, for the item. Thank you, Councillor Page. A seconder? Councillor Second. Councillor Page?
I support the officer's recommendation. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Second?
I too support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we put it to the vote? Thank you, councillors. Let's put that item to the vote.
Item CC 005 of 26 has been carried unanimously with all 11 voting in favour.
Thank you, Governance. The next item on the agenda is 13.3. It's from the Directorate of Mr Graham Bride, the Director of Planning and Development. It's PD 003 of 26, the title of the report being Castledare Local Development Plan, Outcomes of Public Consultation. The recommendation is on page 64 of the agenda. It also appears on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? That would be our Deputy Mayor. Seconder would be Councillor Joanne Page. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I support the officer's recommendation, and I thank the team for their efforts in the changes that they've made to the developer's LDP, and that includes the no excavation zones on lots 10 and 44 as in the recommendation, and they've also included references to the Australian standards, and both of these will work to protect the significant trees on site, and I look forward to those trees, most of them, getting put on the significant tree register at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
I support the officer's recommendation. I also thank the public for their involvement in the consultation. It was very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, unless anybody wishes to speak against the item, we may just put it to the vote. Thank you, councillors. We shall put it to the vote.
Item PD 003 of 26 has been carried unanimously with all 11 voting in favour.
Thank you. We move to PD 004 of 26. The title of this report is the initiation of Scheme Amendment number 20 to Local Planning Scheme number 42. It's the rezone of Lot 103 in brackets number 50, 5th Avenue, Rossmoyne, and upcode of Lot 9000, which is number 5, Michael Court, Shelley, to residential R40. The officer's recommendation appears on page 79 of tonight's agenda. It also appears on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for the item? Councillor Kunza, thank you very much. A seconder? Councillor McCorkle, thank you. Councillor Kunza?
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Look, I'll support the proposed scheme amendment and the relevant administrative measures, including going to public consultation. It's logical to support the proposed change to residential zoning as per this scheme amendment. The matter of upcoding, however, is not as straightforward as I believe there are reasons to support the upcoding, but also there are reasons to question it. As per my questions last week, a principal argument to upcode the site to R40 is that it's considered consistent with the established zoning along the activity corridor, which is 100 metres south of the site. The city upcoded the relevant R40 area due to its proximity to Leach Highway. The specific area surrounds 5th Avenue and Leach Highway intersection. The reality is, however, that the state government is in the long process of significantly reducing access to Leach Highway from 5th Avenue, meaning the reasons that the established area was upcoded will be significantly compromised, as residents will now have to traverse through Rossmoyne to Webb Street to travel west along Leach Highway. I therefore question the merits of upcoding this site to R40 under this premise, and further note that whilst the report states that it is consistent with the strategic intent of LPS 42 to increase residential densities in areas with access to transport infrastructure and services, it should be highlighted that the rest of the lots along 5th Avenue are zoned R20, including all the residential land surrounding this site. Now, I appreciate that the local road network is expected to be able to cater for the increased number of vehicles caused by the development as per the transport impact statement, However, I believe it's questionable to use the proximity to Leach Highway as main justification to upcode the site, given that the state government is in the process of compromising this access. On the other hand, I do agree that it's logical to allow R40 upcoding, given it's rare to have a greenfield site of this size within a developed suburb like Rossmoyne, where housing diversity can be delivered in a considered way. It is also pertinent to highlight that whilst the site has been utilised in a minimalist way for many years, that local residents are generally used to, if it had been used to its potential, the activity could have been far more intensive, generating far more traffic under the current private community purpose zoning, and this argument is well articulated within the AB comment. I therefore support the scheme amendment to put community consultation for feedback. I'd also like to mention how pleasing it is to see the work done to maximise tree retention, especially the significant trees, and the creation of more public open space within Rossmoyne, which is needed. I'm particularly pleased to see the proposed subdivision layout with the spatial distribution of trees informing the location of public open space, which at 13.3% exceeds the required 10%. Now, as I touched on last week with the Castledare matter, I do hope that proper forewarning is provided to prospective home buyers in the future regarding the protection of those trees to mitigate the chances, as we see in local government from time to time, where people buy properties with the intention of later seeking a tree's removal or significant pruning. But I support the officer recommendation and endorse it.
Thank you. Councillor McCorkle, would you like to add anything further?
No, just that I do also support the officer's recommendation, and the technical assessment was fantastic. Yeah, nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councillor McCorkle. Does anyone wish to speak against the item? In the absence of anyone wishing to speak against the matter, we'll put it to the vote. Thank you, councillors.
Item PD 004 of 26 has been carried unanimously with all 11 voting in favour.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is PD 005 of 26. That's the Section 31 reconsideration of the development application for the existing club premises, in brackets motorcycle club, DA 25/0499 it's actually, the address is Unit 436 Kembla Way in Willetton. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 98 of the agenda. And just reminding you that I've already disclosed an impartiality interest in relation to this matter. Councillors, I'm happy to move it from the floor if I can have a seconder. Thank you. That would be Councillor Tuchek as a seconder. Councillors, I don't wish to speak for too long on the item. I support the officer's recommendation, which is that this council refuses to grant the application approval for the change of use from a factorette to a club premises. I've disclosed an impartiality interest in this item, as previous comments I've made publicly in relation to the Bandidos Outlaw Motorcycle Club may be perceived by others as demonstrating a degree of apprehended bias. That's not the case. I'm in my 11th year serving on this council, and over that time I've had cause to deliberate on many planning matters. It's also the case that some years ago I was appointed by the relevant minister to the Metropolitan Inner Development Assessment Panel, previously known as the JDAP, a position that requires panel members to undertake comprehensive training on planning legislation and to make high-level planning decisions. It's a panel that I currently sit on. I'm fully aware and accepting of my responsibility to deal with all planning matters in a quasi-judicial manner, having regard only to the facts of the matter and assessing them against the relevant planning framework. I intend to do exactly that this evening with the matter now before this council. For those reasons, and having regard to the planning framework and the facts outlined in the officer's report, I urge council to support the officer's recommendation to refuse to grant the development application for a change of use for the premises. And that's on the officer's recommendation that has appropriately considered the impacts on amenity of residential properties within close proximity of the site, and also that the officer's recommendation aligns and responds to the views received from the community during the advertising process. Of particular concern to me from a planning perspective is Part B of the recommendation in relation to the fact that the proposed development is incompatible with the intended future character of the locality and will have a significant detrimental impact on surrounding land, including adjoining residential properties. And councillors are well aware that residential properties form the rear boundary of this premises. Those property owners are entitled to the quiet enjoyment of their residential lifestyle, which was established in many cases long before the Bandidos Outlaw Bikie Club moved in. And they should enjoy that quiet enjoyment without being subjected to the unacceptable amenity impacts resulting from the cumulative intensification of the club premises, which, according to the report, will accommodate up to 100 patrons, along with the proposed 24-hour weekend operations, as detailed in Part C. Part D of the recommendation refers to a number of adverse impacts of this proposed change of use, including incompatibility with the established character of the area and the adverse social effects on surrounding properties. On that note, I'd like to acknowledge the 67 individuals who made public submissions in relation to this proposal, and in particular, I'd like to acknowledge those who publicly objected to the proposal. Given the notoriety of the applicant, this is, in my view, a demonstration of the fortitude and a strong rebuttal of the proposition before us by those most affected by it. It's compelling to me as a mayor that of the 67 public submissions received by the city, 64 of those, or 95.5%, objected to the proposal before us. Councillors, Kembla Way in Willetton is not an appropriate site for the stronghold of an outlaw motorcycle gang for all of the reasons detailed in the officer's report. Families living in adjoining property should not be subjected to the 24 hours a day activity that an outlaw bikie club conducts, particularly on weekends when it's more likely that those families will be at home. And business owners in their immediate vicinities should be able to conduct business whenever they choose to do so, even on weekends, without the interruption caused by the lack of parking around the subject premises and the unacceptable amenity impacts when numbers at the club swell to up to 100 patrons. I thank the city's officers for their detailed report and the considered manner in which the application has been measured against the local planning framework. I'm supporting the officer's recommendation to refuse the development application. Councillor Tuchek, do you wish to add anything to that?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Councillors, unless somebody wishes to speak against the item, I would propose to put it to the vote. Councillor Hearn.
I speak for. Firstly, I need to clarify for our audience that we are required to consider legislation and regulations on planning matter deliberations. Our preferences or moral positions are not permitted. However, I do find it disingenuous for the applicant to refer to freedom to assemble in international human rights treaties, including the asserted rights of terrorists to assemble. Australian governments can and do legislate against assemblies that may be considered to present a threat to their citizens. In fact, in 2021, the Western Australian Parliament passed a piece of legislation called the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act. It very explicitly prohibits the freedom of assembly of various organisations in public places defined as identified organisations. I note that in Schedule 2, Bandidos Motorcycle Club is listed as an identified organisation. I also note in Part 3, Section 2 of the Act, it specifically states, the objects of this part are to ensure that members of the public may lawfully use and pass through public places without experience fear or intimidation because of organisation-related activity that has the potential to cause public harm, and to reduce the membership of identified organisations, members of which might engage in organisation-related activity that has the potential to cause public harm. For this reason, I set aside the argument that all and any organisation, including terrorist organisations, have the right to assemble under international human rights treaties. I understand if the members of the applicants' club, as an identified organisation, were to gather on the street outside the nominated premises, they would be contravening this 2021 Act. That much is clear and indisputable. Whether the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act applies to this application is a matter I believe needs to be resolved by a court of law. The applicant has stated the patrons at the premises will be members/family. Whether or not the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act applies to the nominated premises depends on whether family is considered to be associates or a section of the public under the Act itself. Under the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act, the definition of public place from which the identified organisations are prohibited from gathering are defined in Part 3, Section 21 as follows. A. Includes a place to which the public or a section of the public is entitled to have lawful access, whether on payment of money, through membership of a club or other body or otherwise, but B. Does not include a place to which only members of an identified organisation or their associates are entitled to have lawful access. Put simply, if family of Bandito Motorcycle Club members are associates of the club members, the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act of 2021 does not apply to the proposed club premises. If family of Bandito Motorcycle Club members are a section of the public, the Act does apply and the club premises themselves would bring its members into contravention of the Act. These terms are not defined within the Act itself. I don't believe local government is the appropriate forum for interpretation of the terms associate and a section of the public in the context of an identified organisation under the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act of 2021. Despite this being a matter I consider requires resolving by our court, I make the following comment on planning considerations raised by the applicant and the city officers. Firstly, parking and amenity. Referencing planning considerations put forward by the city officers, I reject the following propositions: car parking and amenity. I believe the applicant has put forward some attempt at demonstrating a reciprocal arrangement for parking with adjacent tenancies. Whilst it may not be in the appropriate format, I believe this is a matter that could reasonably be resolved by city officers. I also note some sections of street parking immediately opposite on both Kembla Way and Yampi Way. I'm not convinced that there is inadequate parking. The shipping container. I do not accept city officers' assertions about delivery truck access due to the presence of the shipping container. I note the adjacent premises also has a shipping container on its driveway and similarly relies on crossing into the neighbouring driveway for proper access. However, I also do not accept the applicant's claim that the shipping container is used exclusively for storage. I observe railing around the perimeter of the roof of the shipping container, and it is clear the roof is intended to be used for human occupancy. This introduces further issues of privacy for neighbouring properties and additional noise carriage. Noise itself. My main concern with this application is the use of the rear yard and the associated noise. Being in immediate proximity to residential yards, it must be demonstrated that noise can be contained and managed. I note in the noise management plan an almost entire reliance upon controlling human behaviour, not dropping glass bottles in bins or using tongs on barbecues noisily or slamming car doors. I find it unlikely that music will never be played officially or unofficially by patrons in the rear outdoor area. It is my view that controlling noise by controlling the behaviour of 60 to 100 people is unrealistic, and more so with alcohol involved. Even the proposed noise management plan is full of the use of the word should. Concerning noise testing and documentation, there is no will or must, there is no genuine and binding commitment to manage noise once the application is approved. Do I need to seek permission to continue? Is that?
I don't think it went over. Is it 5 minutes already? Are you just about finished?
Just a short bit more, that's okay.
If you could wind up, that'd be great. Yeah, thanks.
Responsibility then falls on local residents and the city officers to manage noise compliance. I find the proposed complaint documentation process, whereby complainant names and addresses are documented, to be highly unsuitable for any organisation. Setting aside the lawfulness of a club being established to be an identified organisation under the Unlawful Consorting and Prohibited Insignia Act, I consider a light industrial area somewhat ideal for a clubhouse. I would articulate that if this premises was on the opposite side of the road, the application would have been stronger, as the proximity to residential housing is the key issue in my consideration. Whilst I note the application is for a clubhouse, I would purport the operation of the club are closer to a tavern, a planning use which would not be approved in light industrial. In terms of comparable venues, the only venue I could identify is the Canning RSL, located almost entirely in a residential area. Similarly, there is no primary club activity other than socialisation and consumption of alcohol. The outdoor area also backs onto residential premises. However, I note the RSL has a 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. closure time, varying day by day. I note the applicant has not nominated any specific closure time for the venue. In theory, patrons may be utilising the outdoor area well through the night, and sound control is reliant upon compliance by individuals with suggested behaviours. I cannot support this application on the basis of information made available to me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jacobs.
I just wanted to say a few words for the record, if I
Yeah,
may.
go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm looking at this application.
You're speaking for or against?
I'm speaking for the motion.
For the motion.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for the motion. And I just wanted to just quickly just speak my logic. I'm looking at this purely from a planning perspective. I note that you've already mentioned this, Mr. Mayor, that 64 of the 67 people objected. I also looked at the back, and it's at its closest is 5.12 metres from the residential areas at the back. I've had a look at this. I don't think it's a suitable site because of access, parking, traffic. I think the sea container is probably not helping with the potential expandable dance floor. If you look on page 101, there's an extensive history from January 25, 2025 of it's been made a complaint, and then the city's had to deal with it. So we've run a long process. I think that it's not suitable. There may be other areas that are more suitable, but this particular, I cannot support the application for the light industrial to be changed to a clubhouse under its current paperwork. So that's all I want to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jacobs. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Ross.
I just wanted to say something, if that's right, in support of the officer's recommendation. While I understand that there has been much consternation around this application, I do not want to say that I appreciate but have personally not been swayed by your opinion in this matter, even though you've done a declaration, Mayor Hall. I believe that while the associations like this tend not to defecate in their own residence, so to speak, the anxiety felt by members of our community is justified in more relation to the proximity of the residential areas and the potential to become collateral damage should there be rival disputes with similar clubs. Should the club find a more suitable location in either a rural or heavy industrial area, I have no problem in supporting the application to create their men's shed, assuming it's not with close proximity to residents in the city of Canning, resolving many of the issues in terms of the sound and proximity to residential people. So I just wanted to put on the record I support the officer's recommendation, exclusive of your declaration.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Thank you, councillors. There's no need for me to close debate. Unless anyone else wishes to speak, I propose to put the item to the vote. Thank you, councillors. Let's put the item to the vote.
Item PD 005 of 26 has been carried unanimously with all 11 voting in favour.
Thank you, Governance. Thank you, Council. We move to item 13.4. It's from the Directorate of Mr Warren Bowe, the Director of Infrastructure and Environment. IE 003 of 26 is the report number, the title being Consultation Paper, Western Australian Local Government Association, which in brackets is WALGA, the Climate Change Advocacy Position. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It's a very simple one. Is that Council endorses a proposed revision to the Western Australian Local Government Association Climate Change Advocacy Position and the additional city feedback to WALGA as contained in attachment 2. And I thank those councillors who provided that feedback. The recommendation is on page 136 of tonight's agenda and is on screen. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Secon, thank you. Deputy Mayor is the seconder. Councillor Secon.
I support the officer's recommendation and have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Mark Bain.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I support WALGA's climate change advocacy position and also the feedback provided by the city based on elected member feedback as well. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kunze, yes, of course.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Look, I'll support the recommendation and the letter that the CEO will write to Mr Sloan. I support the change in advocacy position through WALGA's the draft statement and find it more contemporary and relevant to today. I appreciate the changes made by staff and convey my thanks for the amendments and the inclusions following my commentary at the SIB and also at the agenda briefing, particularly the various changes aimed at advocacy to not only protect what we have in terms of tree retention, but also advocacy to include urban forest carbon sinks. It's remarkable how much focus is placed on planting new vegetation, especially by the state government, whilst very little is done to protect what we have, which is far more significant. Southwest WA is one of the most cleared places on the planet, and it's great to see the additional recommendations, much of what has been advocated for by the city, further to what the WALGA Climate Change Advocacy Statement provides is about improving and protecting Perth and WA's mainly Perth's urban forest. As I touched on last week, in saying that, it is important to seek funding to deliver planting new trees. Canning originally had like a $45 million urban forest strategy, which was pared back. And if we could actually get state government and Commonwealth government funding to deliver it, and other local governments could as well, it would be amazing. We have limited resources at a local government level. And so to actually get state and Commonwealth funding to help deliver increasing the new plantings would be phenomenal. And as I touched on last week, I do find it a bit remarkable that we're highlighting the impact that the increasing energy costs are having on our budget when the City of Canning and the local government sector as a whole have consciously pursued energy policies and energy reduction programs that have driven up costs. Now, one can argue that that's fine, nothing wrong with that, given the green principles, but I'm unsure why the city is now raising power pricing costs as an issue when we made a conscious choice to pursue those policies. In reading this document and agenda item, I don't support everything in it, but I do support a large amount, enough to support the item. I do hope that the city stays consistent in our actions, in our future actions particularly, with what we're advocating for here, as will be judged accordingly. For example, it wasn't that long ago that the city wanted council to approve building a dual carriageway through a significant bush forever site in Canning Vale. And only as recently as a few months ago, the Mayor said he wanted us to revisit the Jandakot Eastern Link Road and wanted to build it. Now, such a project would be in total contradiction with what we're advocating for here tonight, should it be endorsed. In fact, with reference to the Thriving Perth portal included within the report, the City of Canning actually did thermal imaging. It was actually fascinating to see as part of the urban forest strategy, the award-winning urban forest strategy, which is highly relevant to this item. Ironically, the city had a case study where it highlighted the city's landfill and waste transfer site, which was extremely hot, and compared it to the Bush Forever site adjacent to it, which was considerably cooler. Now, this is the location chosen to highlight the urban heating and importance of vegetation, the contrast, which is what we're advocating to try to stop the urban heating across the City of Canning and the wider metropolitan Perth. Whilst I've been very keen to see an outcome with 351 Bannister Road in Canning Vale, I'm looking forward to a report being presented to Council and the community in the near future. Again, I hope the recommendation and the subsequent city actions are consistent with what we're advocating for here tonight. That is the protection of the Banksia woodland, and anything otherwise would see a loss of credibility. Now, the fact is that the city is going further than it needs to in this document to voluntarily advocate for certain actions it wants from the state government and the Commonwealth government and philosophical principles. And I hope that we would demonstrate that with our actions in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Kunze. Councillor Secon, there's no need to close on unless somebody else wishes to speak. We shall put the item, which is the final item on the agenda tonight, to the vote. Thank you, councillors. Shall put the item to the vote.
Item IE 003 of 26 has been carried unanimously with all 11 voting in favour.
Thank you. Closing out the meeting at item 13.5 from the Directorate of Mr Gary Fisher, the Director of Customer and Community. There are no reports from that Directorate. At item 14, motions of which previous notice has been given, there are none. At item 15, urgent business, there is no urgent business this evening. Confidential matters at item 16, there are none for this council to consider this evening. So at item 17, closure, there being no further business, I now declare the meeting officially open. Closed. The time being, we could open it again if you like, but we'll close it at 6:38 p.m. And I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. Good night.